Hi, this is Matt's Rundown. If you enjoy watching movies as much as we do, subscribe and hit the like button down below.
Today we're going to be looking at the trailer for This Is Not a Burial, It's a Resurrection.
So this is a movie made in Lesotho and it's an Oscar potential. So I'm really looking forward to watching the trailer and watching the movie. I think it's going to be very exciting. Let's get going.
Yep.
Mary, how katea tsebe mobung wa Nazareta o tla ikutlwela dillo le ditshebo tsa bafu ba nyametse ke dihola meya ya bona e hua botibong.
Feels very much like old tradition.
That is jarring.
Old world and new world.
Even the clothes. Jarring. That was very jarring. It looks like it's going to be pretty well executed. Even this constant symbolism of the old and new, because there was construction work going on, and there's the traditional people looking after the livestock. Then there's people in modern clothes, and then there's people in the traditional. I'm not going to say modern.
But you say modern, but in some places, that woman who's laying in the bed had like an old Victorian type dress. Almost. That wasn't a modern dress.
No, it wasn't.
So that's also what I meant with modern.
I agree with you about what you mean with the modern. It's almost the traditional and the other.
I think most people would just talk about it as being like modernity, like that kind of essence. And how do you actually work through the conflict between the modernity and your traditional cultural roots that you still want to keep up at the same time, but staying in tune with what's happening around the world in terms of globalization, modernity, and those kind of things.
You can see it's going to be ripe with religious connotations throughout as well. I mean, it wasn't so much a moving trailer as almost still images constantly. They were moving, but it was still images, and it was to bring your attention to her sitting in the corner with the cross on the wall, the picture of the priest up close who looked quite disturbed and worried. And
then the first guy was like an elder or a traditional healer.
yes.
So there's more like conflicting between, not necessarily conflicting, but that mediation between the two.
With the music they chose, I think conflicting is probably the right word. I think it's going to be conflicting. It's going to be a harsh juxtaposition.
And the title just makes me wonder exactly where it's going, because the trailer didn't show a lot. So is it, someone who died and then they're doing religious rites for the person to become an elder, and in terms of that it being a resurrection? But they were also paralleling it with the flood, and in Christianity, what
Great
happened with the flood, and then, there was this renewal of civilization almost. Or, is it in such a big context, or is it more like on the smaller familial, becoming an ancestor context, even though I know the ancestors are actually part of a very big thing?
I think this movie's probably going to have multiple layers, and I think all of those layers are probably going to be in there. I think another layer will probably be, she looks old and she looks like she's lived her life, so she should be winding down. And it looks like she needs to come out of this wind down to try and sort out something, sort out a conflict, so that it should be it's not a burial anymore, to resurrection, because I have to come back to help my homeland, help my people, help my community, whatever the conflict is, because I have no idea what the conflict's going to be in this, but there's definitely going to be
something. It's very interesting. I'm not 100% sure where it's going at this point, because like I said, the trailer was very different. I think they made it different on purpose, and they used that jarring music to unsettle you and get you ready for, like you say, something's not quite right, something's brewing.
Not talking about a supernatural conflict or anything like that, talking about conflict in daily life that comes up, conflict that communities face, and especially probably a rural community like that would face. So I wonder what it's going to entail.
Yeah.
Besides the beginning where they're relaying that oral history, was there any other talking in that trailer? It was very much just visual communication the whole time. So a very interesting choice.
Yeah. So overall, I have no idea in general what the movie is going to be about. I think there are some possibilities that maybe we know because of our cultural context.
Yeah.
I'm not so sure if that's exactly where it is going to go, and I'm not sure if that is where it's going to go if other people who don't necessarily come from South Africa would understand, because I'm not sure people understand about ancestors and the transitioning between death and the role that people play even after death.
I would hope that the movie would almost explain it just a little bit, just so everybody else could appreciate it without... It's nice to be able to appreciate other cultures without having to actually study for 20 years to learn about the culture.
I feel like that no matter how much they give a little bit of context in the movie, it's not going to be the same sort of understanding that someone from the country would have.
Always, of course, yeah.
So,
you can't,
yeah.
There's no substitute for living within the culture, to learn a culture, even to experience a culture. But it's as close as you can come to living within a culture, is experiencing it through the screen.
And trying to understand it from the tradition of storytelling, which is very much in line with the African folks.
Yeah.
And now it's just being made into a movie to reach hopefully a wider audience. I think it's going to be interesting.
I'm looking forward to it.
Do you guys feel like your local movies translate very well overseas, especially in terms of where it comes to culture? Let us know in the comments down below. Bye.
Later.